welcome to the Gupshup booth. I am Srini and I'm joined by Nick Lay, who is the Chief Analyst and Founder at Mobilesquared. Nick, welcome to Gupshup.
Thanks very much. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And Nick, I wanted to ask you, you've been covering telecom and messaging for a long time now. So what are the dominant trends that you're seeing in messaging as it sort of transitions from SMS to this IP world, IP messaging?
Yeah, sure. So SMS, we're seeing very strong growth. We expect to see strong growth for the rest of our forecast period up to 2025, 2026. But that in itself is kind of providing a platform. Our numbers show that only about 5% of businesses are using SMS. So there's natural organic growth to be had there. We're not saying that every business needs or will in fact use SMS, but it just shows that as richer, stronger channels emerge, or as they have emerged, such as WhatsApp, such as RCS, then brands want this experience. So we're already starting to see that now with WhatsApp. In particular, we've made fantastic performance growth in Brazil and India. Starting to see that in other markets now, certainly pockets around Western Europe and other markets, certainly East Europe, Asia. But RCS, we think, is going to be a really big year for RCS because we think, brands are starting to buy into that. WhatsApp's great, but its functionality is limited. So brands are starting to see the benefit of the chat and conversation element that obviously IP messages are bringing, but RCS takes that to a whole new level altogether. So we think actually this year, RCS will actually get onto the map.
Thanks for that, Nick. So the other question I have for you is, if you look at the entire customer journey, which is kind of pre-purchase, purchase, post-purchase, where do you see the traction coming in from different parts of the world in adoption of these messaging apps? What are some of the use cases that you see that are, that have been the early movers, and what are some that are sort of emerging?
Well, with WhatsApp, for example, you've got customer care. So that's all about the inbound experience. They've obviously changed their guidelines. So from September last year, if you had an opt-in database on WhatsApp, you can obviously start doing marketing promotions. So that's, that in itself would be just kind of a richer version of what these brands are achieving with SMS. But with RCS, you obviously can have the carousels, and that, so you're starting to see restaurants move into sending out their menus. So people it makes things, the whole pre-ordering process a lot easier, because obviously the world's changed because of the pandemic. People are more reliant on their phones than ever before. You see QR codes now wherever you go. Any company that's customer facing is suddenly actually giving a half decent experience, which no one ever got beforehand. Exactly. For example, in a pub in England, we'd all be sitting out in the rain. But now everything's covered. So these are the changes that have been made, and everything's more reliant on mobile. So you're starting to see lots of different use cases emerging to make that experience better, to make it easier. It's not all transactional. It's just to aid that experience, but that's kind of the norm now, what people expect.
And specifically, WhatsApp also released WhatsApp for Commerce, which is one of the big features that came out last year, right? Yeah. Gupshup has been working with a lot of clients to enable that. How do you see that emerging as a use case, especially in the D2C and e-commerce world?
I think it's a must. It's the same for any channel. Because what you don't want to do is start having people jump from channel to channel. You lose people. So if you can keep people in that same journey and make that payment process as simple as possible, then you will see a much higher return. So it's inevitable, and it's something that has to be rolled out in every market. And obviously we think it will be, and it would make sense for WhatsApp to do that. But again, it makes WhatsApp a far more compelling channel to the brands that want to use it.
A lot of people don't talk about Instagram enough. They consider it to be more about suited for creator economy or just building a followership. But last year, Instagram also opened up their Messenger API. So what are your thoughts on adoption of two-way conversations with Instagram, both in advertising and in the organic, the people that follow a particular handle? What are some of the trends?
It's wonderful having all these various channels, but it really comes down to what are the channels that consumers want to engage with brands on. So, it could be that 20% of Instagrammers are happy for brands to communicate with them, to send them ads or messages or whatever. But, if it's 80% that don't want that, that's a large majority. But it really comes down to that the omnichannel experience and what the consumer wants. So, adding another channel is brilliant, provided that the brand uses it properly.
Now, moving to voice, voice is also an emerging trend. As you know, Gupshup acquired Mobilesquared, AI-powered voice company.
Yeah.
And we're working on integrating and providing a messaging come voice come video sort of an experience. So how do you see voice being integrated with this whole suite of messaging apps?
Well, voice is part of messaging. The amount of messages that you now get on the P2P basis from friends, they just record a little memo and sending that. So, it's just making it even easier. So voice is, everyone thought voice was dying,
Right.
but you're going to see it resurgent, I think, but as messages. So not everyone wants to have something visual.
Right.
So, if it's, and you don't need something visual, but if you just get a voice message saying when your appointment reminder is,
Right.
that's all you need to see. Because I think what we're now seeing in the trend is, obviously we came out with the figure that 90% of all messages are read within 3 minutes.
Yeah.
We came out with that as part of a big piece of research 12 years ago in 2010. But that's no longer true. On average, we think it's about 48% of messages are actually read.
Okay.
But that's because if you look at your phone, you're getting all these notifications sent through now.
Correct.
So, that message is going to be bumped off your phone at some point.
Yeah.
So the whole engagement is slightly different now. So if there's a way of making sure that someone's actually going to find out what that message is, then maybe voice is the way to go. Because what you're now seeing is, you're seeing the headline, the first few sentences, and if it's relevant, you'll click them, and if it's not, you'll ignore it.
Right.
But if it just says brand X, listen to this,
Yeah.
the chances are you're going, I've got to hear. What are they sending me? And it could be a promotion, it could be something simple, or it could be something irrelevant.
So you're talking about voice that's sort of embedded within the
Yeah,
messaging
absolutely.
experience.
Yeah.
And
So
that's-
that seems to be, something very compelling. But I think from the IVR experience with customers, not so.
IVR fatigue is real. It's a real thing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now switching tracks to RCS, you're aware that Gupshup and .go launched the universal RCS. Now RCS has been a standard that's been around since 2007 or 6 or 7 now. Do you think that the time has finally come for businesses to start thinking about using RBM as a legitimate messaging channel for consumer interaction?
I mean, to be honest, they should have been using it years ago. It's as simple as that. It's a channel, it's there, it's rich. So, I think the messaging has to change. It's not about scale, it's about engagement. Because we've done a lot of models looking at engagement, and our numbers show that if you send 1 million SMS and 250,000 RCS, and let's say you're a brand selling a product for $10, your return on that investment will be 3 or 4 times higher than it would from SMS. But if you do it on a like-for-like basis, RCS is 400 times more effective.
Right.
So telling everyone to wait for every carrier to roll out RCS and RBM is crazy.
Right.
It's a rich platform, it should be used now.
Exactly.
So should they use it now? Absolutely, because it's there and it's rich.
And you've also been covering Gupshup and .go for a while. Any thoughts that you have from the outside in on how we are sort of progressing in the market and some of our innovations?
I think from within RCS, you guys are very active and certainly up there leading from the RCS side of things, and I think also on the P2A side, because that's, we think, is ultimately going to be where the money comes from, and that's how companies will start to, consumers will really start to engage with customers. So drive the P2A thing, and I think that's going to be incredibly strong for you as a company.
Cool, thanks so much, Dick, for your time.
My pleasure.
And thank you so much for stopping.
Thank you.